a device as such would have, let me be, little more, when I say my particular device, Samsung ABC device, could also accommodate the same values with a specific software in place.
Yeah.
And if I'm using an X, I want to install the Samsung ABC device in Manipal Hospital, for example. So Manipal Hospital could also have another software, which they already are using for the HIS, right? So how different, or what are the measures that you've taken to ensure that the data loss or the data has been tested?
Because here this is more an R&D test than the deployment stage. We have a different team which does the deployment. I don't have the exact information, but this is more on R&D side.
Okay.
So that maybe I'll get back to you.
Sure, thank you.
There are many performance tools. It depends, right? Whether what perform our own. It's a lab which we have built our own on Windows operating system, but that is not using any open source tool. Yeah, but for example, to measure time, the time information, how fast is execution, how fast is application launching, we have something called as a high-speed camera. The high-speed camera, see, for example, application launch time, right? He was telling us how do you test it. We have a high-speed camera. Beneath that, your UI, whatever, the software will be there. And this high-speed camera actually measures whenever there is a change in the application. So it gives me a application launch time or switch time whenever there's one-to-one switch. So we do not use manual, we use high-speed camera to do that. And it gives me time when it was your first application launch and second application launch, the screenshot and the time. We don't do manual at all. That was one of the way we do. We don't do it manual. That's one way. Another way is when we do this, the time also, that is one of the performance, is also measured. Yeah, we have our own tool which actually has parses all the logs.
Is it an in-house tool? Or?
Yes, it's an in-house tool. As I told you, we had the similar log tool on mobile. We reused it here.
Any open source idea?
No, we don't have.
You talked about the interoperability as well, right?
Yeah.
Like compatibility with the other devices.
Yes.
So let's say if that device has got some defect, or if they release some new version, so how do you handle that?
Yeah, as I told you, we don't deal with that. That after, while actually they are doing deployment, that we do. I have not captured. Even I am not have experience in that as of now. But to go to IoT, we have our own set which we run.
We also work on measurements, protocols, the transactions of data.
Okay.
And we face this issue multiple times because we depend on lot many devices to get the data, analyze it, and process it ahead.
Okay. Yeah,
so
maybe
it's correlated.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
When we talk about a company like Facebook, have you heard about Facebook? What kind of questions I'm asking, right? So how many of you use Facebook during your work? Okay, we don't need to answer that, getting recorded, guys, okay? And this would be seen by all your company people as well, okay? Now the question here is, how many releases does Facebook have, and how often do they release software? Any idea? Anybody has any numbers in mind that how many times? Sorry? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, anybody? Every day. And it is not even every day, sometimes it is twice every day. Now how do they do that? Have you ever thought that world around us is changing and how agile companies have become? Now we can actually discuss a lot about how Facebook is doing, and I don't want to get into that. But if you want to search, I would say that go on Google, our best friend, right? All of us basically want to search out. Search on Google and say, how does Facebook manage to release their software? Okay, every day. And if I am going to ask you a question, how many testers would be working for Facebook? Sorry? How many, what is the population of, what is the employee strength of Facebook? Any idea? Okay, let me give the numbers, 10,000, okay? So Facebook is unlike WhatsApp, which had 50 odd employees. Facebook has a larger strength, okay? Now, question here is, how many testers actually work for Facebook? Any idea out of this 10,000, how many would be testers? Just a gut answer if you can think about. 30%, 60%, and if I tell you 0, would you believe it? It's true. So Facebook does not have any designated tester. Now, why I am telling you this is that obviously in the agile world, people have been telling that you don't need testers. First of all, is it going to be true? So it's going to be not true, guys. This is where we are spearheading the Agile Testing Alliance, and we are saying that things are changing, and we are basically saying that there could be exceptions, but there is a definitive need, and the way that you do testing in an agile world changes. So like what Santhosh was talking about, that I don't believe in writing too many test cases. Okay, how many of you actually have written, like in your applications, in your environments, if I ask you how many test cases does your team have? Any numbers that would come to you? 9,000. What else? 5,000, 9,000, 4,000. You would definitely get these numbers, right? Now, the problem here is that if you are talking about agile, can you live with this large testing set? Do you see where we are talking about? If you want to be fast, if you want to be nimble, if you want to be agile, and if you are sitting on a 10,000 test case pack, and you want to release software in 2 weeks, would it work for you? Now this is where the regular way of doing testing does not work, and we are basically going to showcase some of the technique today, and we're going to run something which we want you to experiment. This would be more like an experimentation session, okay? Let's see. Alright, so this is something which we have been discussing. Agile helps manage the change better. Do we need the change? What happens if we don't change? So again, I'm asking you guys that what would happen to us if we don't want to change? What would happen to us if we don't want to learn new things? There's something that's going to be really bad. Okay, so what we are talking about is, have you heard about this story? Who's this guy? Steve Ballmer. Who is Steve Ballmer? Yeah. And is he still CEO of Microsoft? X, okay? And as of November 2013, how many of you have, and most of you would be having appraisal systems in your companies, right? As of November 2013, Microsoft rejected the idea that they were following for last 15, 20 or 25 years, and now they don't have those S1, S2, S3, S4, S5 status, right? So the old way of appraisals is basically found out to be counterproductive of creativity. And what they say is that why Googles and why Facebooks are more popular is because of the very reason that they have imbibed that culture, that agile mindset, and because of that, that entire appraisal system is a counterproductive one. And Microsoft has realized that, and it has taken that out completely. Now we are talking about action, right? And we said that we are going to do a bugathon, or we want you to experiment, right? How many of you have got smartphone with you? All right, so if I ask you that, and you have 3G enabled on that? How many of you have got 3G enabled smartphones? Can you come here, please? All the folks who have 3G enabled smartphones with them. Only one? Are you guys shy? Are you scared after Mr. Tuppad's session? Okay, we're not going to hack into your mobile, guys. I want basically volunteers, all the volunteers who have got a smartphone and who have got 3G enabled smartphone. Is that it? Data enabled. Are you surprised? And you definitely, are you using Facebook on your mobile phones or not, right? So how do you use mobile phone? 2G. Okay, so come, 2G also. All right, come. Now, can you please tell me, has the match started between India and England? Is there a match today? there's a match today. So I want you to basically use your smartphone and tell me, has the match started or not? No, you come here. Really, I want more volunteers. Seriously, I need more volunteers for our Bugathon to take place. And I'm requesting you, all of you who have got a smartphone and who can browse, please come here. Okay? Who's bowling first?
India to bat.
India to bat. Okay, so we have the smartphone benefit, but we're going to use it for different reason. Okay? Now, can you please assemble in a line here? Now, at 3:30 in the evening, what else would I do? I'll make them do a parade, right? Come here. No, don't get worried, guys. It is a serious issue, and we are going to use them, and we're going to form teams, okay? Yeah, so how many of you, can you please assemble here? In front of me, one line, one single file, one single line. So don't crowd. Yeah, so no, 1, 2, 1, 2. Just one single line, please. Yeah, so can you start the count? 1, 11, 13. We have got only 13. Now if I want to do this, and if I want to tell the outside world that out of this entire room of people attending a next generation conference, 13, and how many people would be sitting here? 60. So how many, if I divide 60 divided by 13, can you guys please form a file, 5 people at the back of each one of them? Please, I need to, all of you to stand up. We are forming groups here and we are going to do, right? Everybody else come here, please. Except this, all the 13 people, can you go and sit down in a different location? Please. We'll form groups here and we are going to do a testing exercise. That's the reason we are asking you to stand up. It's a group exercise that we want to do. All the people who had smartphones, don't sit nearby. You have to sit in a different location, guys. Okay? All right. So what we'll do is we'll form groups now. Can you basically 4 or 5 of you sit with her? Next 5. So we were talking about 5. Can you please both of you sit here as well? So can you find and basically make sure that there are group of 5s in the entire room? 5, please. Make sure that you're 5 sitting with these guys who have got smartphones. Okay? Yeah. Check that people around you at least have one smart. All right, so we have, and how many people are here? So do we have any group which has got more than 4? Come. All right. So this is where your first exercise is. We are giving you 15 minutes, okay? And this is what the link is. There's an application that you can access on this link. Make sure that as a group, which can be tested in 15 minutes. That's basically, okay, you can write that. I'm not asking you. Whatever. It's up to you guys to say what is happening. I'm not limiting your thoughts, okay? So we want you to test. And is there some place where you can write your defects? Excellent prizes that we're going to share. Okay? So post this conference, I'm going to basically, whenever you write, make sure you write your name and numbers. And how many of you have heard about XP? Extreme programming, right? Is that an agile methodology? Yes, that also is an agile methodology. Okay? Then we have got something called as Scrum, which we have been talking about, and Scrum has become one of the most popular agile way of doing things. And then Dr. Shankar in the morning was talking about Kanban, okay? And then we're talking about combining these and we say Scrum Ban. Then we got Lean. And there are various practices. How many of you heard about pair programming, buddy testing, pairing between a tester and a BA, which is basically nothing but an extreme programming practice. Now what has happened today is most of the people who are doing agile correctly would have used basically some of the best practices and come up with a model which is solving their needs. In the process, what happens is sometimes people start feeling that whatever they are doing is agile. So there is a big confusion going around. In the morning, what we were saying is that a lot of people don't do any documentation. And if you go and check, people would also say don't file any defect. Now those are some things which have really hurt it badly. And on the contrary, when we talk about the correct way of implementation, all these things matter a lot. Okay, so there is basically a thin line. The agile methodologies, all of these talk about just enough documentation. That doesn't mean that there is absolutely no documentation. So whenever we do testing, rather than writing 10,000 test cases, should I write few? Now how do I write few? The problem here is that the classic way of writing every step would not work. We have to learn how do we optimize ourselves, still be able to test. So those of you who have heard about exploratory testing, but still it has to be documented. Exploratory can be totally undocumented, which is a big risk in itself. Now that's where basically the need of testers and need of correct way of implementing agile testing comes into play, okay? And how many of you basically at least understood Scrum? I hope that you know what is Scrum, right? Now, if you look at this diagram, what's going on? And the reason I'm just giving a brief here is because the next exercise will involve basically you understanding the agile. We will give you an agile setup. I'm going to give you sprints. I'm going to give you basically a model where which you are going to, rather than testing the entire application, the application is going to evolve. And you're going to run through a case study as if you are living an agile development world in next 45 minutes or so, okay? Now if you look at it, if you look at this diagram, we have basically sprints. Sprint is what? An iteration. What is the duration of a sprint? Yeah, so it would vary between anywhere between 1 week to 4 weeks, and I've seen people when they become more mature, they can reduce it even further. But we have to begin somewhere. It should not be more than 4 weeks. Okay, so we say that not all sprints reach the end customer. Sometimes you can combine 2 or 3 sprints, and that is called as a release. In this diagram, if you see, the release first is happening immediately after the first sprint, and then there are 2 sprints, then a release. It is not necessary that you keep on doing releases very often. Minimum 1, maximum 3-4 sprints can make a release. Release means what? It is to be shared with the end customer and it is going to go live. That's what is basically release. Now what happens in a sprint? If I say my sprint is 2 weeks, when would the testers see the application?